Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video. Ada for telling my wife my son should have been at our wedding. My 34-year-old female, life is a shambles. I was in the closet for a long time since I became pregnant at the age of 18 and became codependent on my ex. I had no desire to have children with my ex, yet I couldn't just terminate my son. I wasn't unhappy and I loved my ex, but not as much as he loved me. I wasn't complete, and 2 years ago, when I discovered I was falling for Amelia, 46, at work, I knew I had to stop it. However, my family was shattered as a result of my coming out, which harmed my kid. My son despised seeing me when I left and eventually stopped visiting me. I knew he'd come around, all he needed was time. Things improved with Amelia, and we got engaged. Then, last year, she had a health scare, and we decided to marry. My kid had not contacted me yet, and I attempted to leave a message, but his family had blocked me. I didn't want to marry without my kid there, but Amelia expressed her concern. I selected us because I did not want to lose her as well. We married in a modest, restriction-based ceremony, and it was the finest day of my life, except from the day my kid was born. Things were going well until 2 weeks ago, when my son finally phoned, which was incredible. I finally got my kid back when my ex dropped him off. When he wept because he hadn't seen me in so long, being able to comfort him and cuddle him was the nicest part because I got to be his mother again. He said that he wanted to spend as much time as possible with me. He was overjoyed when I showed him the room we were going to make into his. But then he saw my wedding photo and sobbed again, apologizing for not being there for me. I calmed him down by telling him we'd have a genuine ceremony on our anniversary, and he'd be my star. I never want him to feel bad about himself. He's only a kid. He'll come here this week when his exams are over, and we'll design his room together. But I can't get the thought of how depressed he was about my wedding out of my thoughts. I told Amelia and her sisters that I felt bad about not waiting for my son. It sparked a debate since everyone thought I was wrong to bring it up and that I should just forget about it because I'm behaving like an angry cyclops. It's been a source of contention between us since the weekend. So Reddit, you've assisted others in determining if they were correct. Ada on this one. Story 2. Ada for being a stay-at-home parent and going back to school. My wife has a fantastic work ethic. Despite the fact that neither of us has a college education, we have both been professionally successful for the bulk of our adult lives. My wife has worked since she was 15 years old and defines herself by the job she does. She worked till she gave birth, despite the fact that she didn't have to. We had planned for her to stay at home, and my company provided excellent insurance, so the hospital expenditures were affordable. My wife returned to work approximately 2.5 months after our baby was born. She was going insane from being at home all the time with the baby. I was working full-time from home. My profession was really demanding, and I had a large number of customers. Every day from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., I was unavailable. This was difficult for my wife since, although I was officially at home, I needed to concentrate on my career and wasn't much assistance. Instead, I took on cooking, washing, and cleaning, and if the youngster woke up in the middle of the night, I was the one who got up to let my wife sleep. We were both really sleep-deprived. That's exactly how infants are. We couldn't afford child care when my wife returned to work, so she effectively stated, "You're home. You're on deck." I moved from working 50 hours per week to working 50 hours per week while also caring for my kid full-time. My career suffered, my client relationships suffered, my marriage suffered, and I was still waking up at night because my wife would just sleep through our daughter's wailing. A year later, the firm I worked for was sold. I found jobs here and there that allowed me to remain at home with our infant during the day, but I realized I couldn't work full-time from home and care for the baby at the same time. My wife urged that I remain at home. She acquired a new job that provided insurance for her and our kid. But my insurance was terminated. I was stymied. My wife refused to adjust her employment plans and said unequivocally that she was not prepared to be a stay-at-home mom. We couldn't afford child care, we couldn't afford insurance for me, and we couldn't let me work to help pay for it all. I've been a stay-at-home mom for almost a year, with the exception of a few seasonal jobs. When I ask my wife for anything, she repeatedly uses this against me. You don't comprehend the hardship of being the loan provider since you don't have any money. This is quite painful. She didn't really offer me an option here, but she makes me feel bad for remaining at home and refuses to merge our funds so I can assist budget. In September, I'll be returning to school. I set everything up to make it happen, but my wife has been telling me what a bad idea it is. My parents pay for it and provide daycare 2 days a week. My father is suffering from a degenerative condition and will be unable to babysit in a few years. I will also be able to get health insurance. I made sure my wife won't have to do anything else, but ask her to babysit our kid 2 weekdays instead of 1. She's essentially simply relocating one of her vacation days, but she's making me feel really self-centered. 8 Edit. I never considered my wife's actions to be abusive, but it seems to be the overall agreement thus far. I had never considered the possibility of financial abuse. I'm at a loss on what to do. Right now, I'm thinking of making my wife aware of what she's doing and how it's impacting me. It's been a bit soothing reading your remarks. A lot of this seems like things I've known in my thoughts, but have been too terrified to admit. If my wife refuses to discuss these concerns with me, I'm terrified for the future of my family. Thank you to everyone who has already answered. I've been doing a lot of unpleasant reflecting, and I'm sure there's more to come, but this was therapeutic. Update. A number of people mentioned financial abuse in my earlier piece, which was a subject I was unfamiliar with. It was quite difficult for me to comprehend that my wife could be so manipulative and controlling. I had this preconceived sense that any form of abuse had to be maliciously intended, and that being kind, accepting, and loving meant embracing the good with the bad and not judging when someone was nasty to me. In the instance of my wife, I really believed that since I knew where her conduct was coming from, how she grew up, I needed to learn to live with how she behaved toward me. It was my responsibility to address the situation. Despite my wife's displeasure, I returned to school and also got a job that provided me with a school scholarship. I'm going to school for engineering. I never expected to like math so much, but I do. I thought that finding a job and having tuition covered would keep my wife from being concerned about school, but boy was I mistaken. My wife is still unconvinced. I literally just completed my first year of school, 4.0, baby, yesterday, and I'm floating on cloud 9. All I've heard from her this year is how little I assist around the home, that my work should pay me more, that she can't be expected to do everything, and that getting my degree would take too long. Endless. I'll always love my wife, but I've recognized we don't work well together. I've been learning to state what I want and to create realistic limits and expectations, particularly with money, with the support of my therapist. I want to be able to co-parent our daughter with my wife, but I'm also aware that my wife is unlikely to divorce me peacefully. It's a difficult situation for me. Overall, my life is heading in the right direction. I'm appreciative for everyone's contributions. I'm sorry about my marriage, but I felt so much relief since deciding to divorce. I'm trying not to feel bad about it. I was trained to think that divorce was synonymous with failure. Relationships may not always work out. Trying to keep something continuing when it's about to end is a definite way to be miserable. I'm delighted I now have the perspective to recognize that. I don't want to seem like I'm flawless and my wife is a raving bee. I was miserable for the first several years of our marriage because I was suffering from undiagnosed bipolar illness. I'm stable, medicated, in treatment, and having a great time right now. Another reason I put up with a lot of the bad treatment was because of this. I thought I deserved it. Anyway, I like being a student. I adore my work. I adore my child. Thank you once again. Edit. I'd want to add a few things. Thank you once again for all of your support. The support and encouragement I've gotten here has been fantastic. I've had to make a lot of difficult decisions and haven't gotten many good job comments. That was what I needed. Many individuals have voiced anxiety about prospective custody fights. My brother is a lawyer, and he put me in contact with someone who is familiar with family law. So I've been prepared for any court battles. I'm still hoping that my wife and I can come up with a plan that works for all three of us. But for the sake of my kid, I need to cover all of my bases. My wife is not a demon. She has difficulties that she has refused to confront, which has made our marriage difficult for both of us. As someone said in the comments, you must first deal with your own difficulties before you can assist others. My wife is overwhelmed by her problems and does what she believes would keep her safe. Although I understand this, it is not my job to address. Even if I tried, I couldn't fix it for her, and I've attempted it. People who say we shouldn't have had a kid together are probably correct, but I'll never be sorry that my daughter was born. Hands down, the best person ever. If you or someone you care about is suffering from mental health concerns, don't put it off any longer. Take action today. Do whatever it takes to get the assistance you need. If you wait, it will become much more difficult to cope with.